Hey everyone, today's video is going to be how much blood can my pet leech drink? Right here I have a scale for really small stuff. We're going to be using grams, and also click on the other measurements if you want to do your own math. But I will be calculating using grams, and then I have some bandages for when I'm done and alcohol just to clean it up. Leeches are incredibly sterile. That is why they're used in hospitals. They're usually used to remove bad blood or increase blood flow after you have a limb reattached. It's really easy for the doctors to get the blood flowing back into the limb, but it's difficult for them to get it to go back into the body. So they put a bunch of leeches to remove that. This leech here, you can see, is really active and skinny. By the time it's done eating, it'll be fat as a hot dog and barely being able to move around in that tank. Now, I have a foam platform in here because leeches breathe through their skin. They can breathe the air that's in the water, or they can come out and breathe. I've seen other people with pet leeches, they don't have a place where they can come out, and that's incredibly cruel because when water sits and becomes stagnant, I've never had this problem. They've never actually used this. But if the air was ever to become so depleted in the water, the leech can come up here and breathe. I've seen people where the leech has to come up and stick to the glass, so they're struggling by sticking on that glass to breathe. And also, you have to have gravel in there. You cannot keep them in a jar or anything like that. They're just like a snake. They have to be able to grind up against sharp and rigid objects to remove their skin. Especially after feeding, they will shed their skin every single week. And you'll see it floating around in there. Also, they can't be in an aquarium with any kind of filtration, because the filtration, when they go to the bathroom, you'll see like a little brown speck. If you stir up the water, whole thing turns red, because what is their food? Their food is blood. Human blood is by far the most nutritious and healthiest, followed by the pig is pretty healthy. Cow is not too good either, but they are completely sterile. This I bought from a medical supplier. They ordinarily don't sell it to private residents, but I contacted them saying I wanted one as a pet. Usually they only ship in quantities of 100, but they agreed to send me just one, but I had to pay their flat rate $35 shipping. And it's a pretty cool pet. This is a European medical leech, which is actually endangered in the wild, and you can get a really big fine if you're caught actually taking one. This leech can live to be about 10 years old. A maximum length, if you feed it a lot, can maybe stretched out over a foot. But they also don't drink a lot. This guy here, I probably could have gone longer without feeding it. They only require food once or twice a year. It's been 7 months since I fed this. It stayed on my arm feeding for about 70 minutes. They average just under an hour, but I figure that was its first time feeding ever. And they have 3 jaws like this, so when it's on your skin, they're like little saws cutting away. But you can't feel it because they give you anesthesia. It's completely sterile, but throughout the process, you can feel a few pins and pricks. It does not hurt at all. They also give you a blood thinner, so the blood is easier to drink. And now that's why you have to use one of these wound bandages, because a regular Band-Aid, the blood will soak right through. Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to bleed out through that little hole. There's never been a report of anybody ever dying from a leech unless you fall in a pool and you have thousands on you at once. Then you'll obviously die just like animals in nature die from tens of thousands of ticks just taking their blood. Also, a lot of things people do in the wild. Now, this one, there's no chance of it having parasites because it's from a medical supplier, but one in the wild might. If you allow it to feed on you and fall off naturally after an hour or so, there is no risk. But if you try yanking it off, burning it off, putting alcohol or salt on it, it will actually throw up into the wound, and you will probably get anything it might have. Not to mention, if you try ripping it off, you could break off their teeth in your skin, and that could cause you an infection. If there's any chance of me getting an infection, I have a doctor I could go to, and they'd probably give me something like doxycycline for a few days, and that would surely take care of it. But think about it. A leech is tiny. They have 3 jaws. Each jaw has 100 teeth. They have 300 teeth in their tiny mouth. And look at this guy, that is amazing. You see what he's been doing? Well, I can't really call it a he, since they're male and female. But you see what it's doing? It's picking up rocks, digging a hole, and dropping it. Isn't that cool? You see that? It just picked up a rock and dropped it far away. It's digging, trying to bury itself. It's a nocturnal creature. They don't like being out. That's why it's trying to bury itself. Usually, my leech lives inside of this. It's an aquarium ornament. It goes inside that tight space. But I had to remove that today to make sure it would be out so I could give it a feeding. As soon as I put my hand in there, it can sense your little vibrations and your oil on your skin, and that's how leeches find you in the wild. They'll come right over to you. Look at that thing swimming. Yes, they do have what you would call eyes, but they only see shadows. It's almost as if it's kind of like a blind person. They can just see some shadows. But we're going to be feeding this guy today. A lot of people think this is creepy and gross, but it's really not. You really don't feel anything on there. But also, if you put it on your finger, it will heal fast. But last time I decided to put it right here on my arm. You can't really see the mark. It's right there. It left a small mark after it's been 7 months since I fed it. And the mark is just about gone. That's how long it takes if you put it there. But if you put it on like a finger, fingers heal fast. It'll be gone in a few weeks. But once it's done, you'll have like a little Mercedes star on you for a few weeks. That's what their bite looks like. I think it's a pretty cool pet. Also, did you know they have 32 brains? They are a segmented worm, just like an earthworm. They have a brain at every piece of segment. They only have one mouth, and that's obviously the part but they also have a sucker on each end to help themselves hold on. But we better get on to the exciting part and start feeding this. That was just some information on leeches. I also have a video on how I care for it. Like this here is distilled water. I keep it completely distilled. I remove the leech, I spray it off with hot water, then I put distilled water back in there to remove anything that might be bad from the water heater. You can't get a biological cycle going in here like an aquarium because, like I said, they go to the bathroom and they pollute it. That's why if you go near a leech pond in the wild, it's kind of reddish brown because, yeah, they've been on animals and they've been releasing that blood back into the wild. They are hermaphrodites, like I was saying. They're both male and female, so if you put two together like a snail, you're going to have tons and tons of them. And this is a fairly small leech. Try looking up the Dracula leech, which is like 2 feet long. There's videos of people feeding them too. I would never do that, but this is very interesting pet. I don't encourage anybody to get one unless they're fully prepared for what they have to do. You can buy frozen blood for a leech, but it's really not as nutritious and they probably won't live as long off it. Like if you get a pet for this, you gotta go full out and just do it the way you're supposed to. It says on Google you can put it on your house pet, but I think that's cruel because they give you a blood thinner that induces bleeding, so that's kind of messed up to do to your pet like Google suggests. But if you want a leech, most leeches do not suck blood. That's the good news. You can buy one that will eat little worms and even plant-eating ones. These ones here, most places won't even sell these to the public, but I found a medical supplier in the US that actually would. I was lucky for that. So I'm going to go ahead and start pulling it out of here. I keep it in this container. They're like an octopus. They will get out of everything. You can't put it in a container unless, yeah, it's pretty much sealed. Because like this little hole for the divider, when this guy was a baby, it would have fit out of that. And they grow fast. They only need food once or twice a year. Okay, we just had a little technical difficulty with the leech not wanting to stay in the container, so we got that. And we got the top part that's going to keep the leech inside there. Okay, it's back on 0. Let me grab the leech out of here so we can get an accurate measurement of what it's actually going to drink. So, put the leech in there. Put the cover back on so it's like trapped in there. Okay, so there's all the measurements if anyone wants to see. And we're going by grams. The leech weighs 3.3, we'll say, grams. 3.2. It's not changing anymore. Here we go. Ounce. 0.11 ounce. And back to grams. And now it dropped again. Oh, there we go. 3.2 is our official number. Alright, this thing is going to bite me now. Finally. You see its back sucker there? It is, like, really down. I can't even get it off. Oh, no, but it's gonna release it, isn't it? Yep, it came off. Damn. Alright, everyone, it finally attached to my arm. Wow, I was starting to lose my patience there for a while. I must have put it on my arm 100 times. It just kept crawling off. These are not like the wild ones. The wild ones will go right after you. These ones are really picky. You know what I actually did to get it to bite? I soaked my hand in water for like a half an hour. No, actually my whole arm in water, you know, to soften up the skin. Like when you take a long shower, your skin gets really waterlogged, but it just bit. And right now, every few seconds, I feel little pins and needles because, like I showed at the beginning, with its 3 jaws, it's slowly sawing away my skin, making a triangle shape that it can peel up, and it's also giving me a blood thinner right now, along with some anesthesia, so that I really don't feel it. How do you think they get away with that in the wild? A lot of times you don't even feel them on you until you actually see them, because it's anesthesia. Now, when it's done, I can put it on the scale now. This usually takes under an hour, people say. Last time it took me 70 minutes, but I'm going to set up a time lapse for everybody so you can see this thing really grow and get fat. It's going to maybe triple its weight. I'm going to watch a movie while I start time lapsing this. Look at that. It's huge. Almost 70 minutes. And if you could see this, you could probably see it in the time lapse. Where it's attached, it's making a big red ring right here. My arm is actually numb from this. Part of the reason is my arm has fallen asleep. It's been like this for over an hour, just spread out on the table. I haven't really moved it much. Hand is super sweaty. But this right here, this ring here, that constant sucking there, does actually start to get sore after a while. And where you see the redness there, if you can even make that out, that will turn black and blue in a little while. But it goes away after a day or so. That's what happened last time. And the mark there, it'll completely close up in maybe a week. But you'll have a small scar for a few months. Or at least where I did it before. Now I'm doing it on the top of my arm because I figure it'll heal faster than on the bottom where I did it before. Now this guy's absolutely huge. The back sucker is now disconnected, so that makes me think it is probably going to detach. So, if you don't want to see blood, please shut the video off right now. Because when they do detach, there will be a little bit of blood. And if you noticed, in that time lapse, it started off really slow, but now you can actually see it slurping right there. If you look carefully, you can see its muscles moving, really sucking on the blood, and the reason is, your blood at first was hard to drink. It administered a blood thinner now 70 minutes ago. It's now completely through my body, so now it's able to drink it really fast. And as soon as the leech comes off, it's not going to stop bleeding. Last time it took 12 hours for it to start clotting again. That is why I have these wound bandages, and you put a lot of pressure on that one point. It's not dangerous because it's just a small hole. You're not going to bleed out through that little hole. But you also don't want to get injured that day because it does remain in your body depending on the size of the leech and your body weight. That is what determines this kind of stuff. Oh, look at the leech is getting back up. Maybe it's not done yet. It's taking longer than last time because it's bigger. I'm surprised about that. Last time it took 70 minutes. Now we're pretty much approaching 80 minutes. Thing is getting big. Wonder when it's going to detach. It should be any minute now. You can really see if you get really... Whoa! There, it came off. It came off. Look at that. Look at all that blood. Oh, that thing is a monster now. I don't want to get blood on my scale, so... Wow, that thing is really as big as a hot dog. I'm going to put it back in its tank for a minute to clean the blood off its face. Now, I got to clean myself up. I got to get my bandage out. I got these big hospital wound bandages here. And it says expired in 2019, but they'll still work. That's why I got them for so cheap. These bandages work incredibly good, and you can see there the blood thinner is really strong. So what I'm going to do is I got to get my, what do you call it? I'm just going to use the towel I have here. I'm not going to bother getting some paper towels. And this is really going to burn. I got to open up my new... alcohol container, because I want to get this cleaned up. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can feel my whole arm is numb. I gotta put that on. A little bit of alcohol. That didn't burn as bad as I thought it would. Okay, clean that out one more time. Yeah, as you can see. Okay, now this bandage is completely waterproof, and you see it's sealed around the edge, so as soon as the blood fills up a certain area, it's not going to be able to go anywhere. And I accidentally put that on wet skin, so I'm probably going to have to change that in a minute anyways. But oh well, it'll stop after a little while. Now we got to get the scale back out and see how much this guy gained. Alright, before all this, the leech weighed approximately, I believe, 3.2. So I gotta put the container back on here, and this time we don't need the top one to contain it. It's so fat, it's not gonna crawl out that fast. Set it back to 0, get rid of that container's weight, and I pull the big old leech back out of the cage. That thing is so slippery. It got really big. Wow! 18.7. We started off at 3.1. Wow, that is like 6 times its original weight. Now let me show you guys everything else in case wherever you're from you go by a different measurement. There's ounces. A little bit of glare with that one. It says GN. Oh, look at the big old guy just came right out of the cage. Look at that guy. Well, hope this video was interesting. Thanks for watching. The guy is huge. It feels like a balloon. It's a monster. Well, there's enough blood now. I don't have to feed this guy maybe for another 7 or 8 months. It's a really low maintenance pet. All you gotta do is change the water once a week. But it is actually a lot to put up with. The bleeding thing, that's like the worst part of it. But as you can see, I don't even have to change this bandage. That's as much as it's gonna bleed. I like plugged the hole, as you could say. Thanks for watching.